Rockspeare Richard III is presented thanks to the Where You Are Festival, but also thank you to Ramada Canberra. They have been supporting Shakespeare by the Lakes for 3 years now, and we couldn't do this production without them. The Diplomat Hotel in Griffith and the Encore Apartments in Belconnen have a promo code TAKE20, which you can enter if you're booking any accommodation or any food and beverage, and it will take $20 off. That's the Diplomat Hotel in Canberra and the Encore Apartments in Belconnen. Good evening and welcome to the Where You Are Festival. My name is Lexi Sekuless and I'm a part of Rockspeare & Co. Thanks to the Where You Are Festival and Rise Canberra, supported by the ACT government, we are doing a live stream of Richard III. Now, as a part of that production, we're doing a couple of insider streams, and we've already done one of them, the first cast read-through, and now this evening we're doing a deep dive into one of the characters, and that will be the character of Clarence. I am joined now by Duncan Driver. Hello, welcome.
Hello, thank you. It's a pleasure to be here.
Now, Duncan is playing the part of Clarence.
I hope so, unless I do an awful job, and then I'll be recast.
Yeah, I didn't tell you, Duncan. This is actually your audition on camera.
Okay, well, no pressure then at all.
No pressure, indeed. Let us start with, indeed, no pressure, your monologue.
Okay. One of the most famous and excerpted speeches in all of Shakespeare.
Indeed, indeed. So let's do one nice, easy, simple first read.
So not acting?
No, no acting required.
Okay.
NAR, no acting required.
Okay.
Whenever you're ready.
Oh, I have passed a miserable night, so full of ugly sights and ghastly dreams. Methought that I had broken from the tower and was embarked across to Burgundy. And in my company my brother Gloucester, who from my cabin tempted me to walk upon the hatches. Thence we looked toward England, and sighted up 1,000 fearful times during the wars of York and Lancaster that had befallen us. As we paced along upon the giddy footing of the hatches, methought that Richard stumbled, and in falling struck me that thought to stay him overboard into the tumbling billows of the main. O Lord, methought what pain it was to drown, what dreadful noise of waters in mine ears, what ugly sights of death within mine eyes. Methought I saw 1,000 fearful wrecks, 10,000 men that fishes gnawed upon, wedges of gold, great anchors, heaps of pearl, inestimable stones, unvalued jewels, all scattered in the bottom of the sea. Some lay in dead men's skulls, and in those holes where eyes did once inhabit there were crept, as 'twere in scorn of eyes, reflecting gems, which wooed the slimy bottom of the deep, and mocked the dead bones that lay scattered by. Oh, then began the tempest to my soul. I passed, methought, the melancholy flood, with that grim ferryman which poets write of, unto the kingdom of perpetual night. The first that there did greet my stranger soul was my great father-in-law, renowned Warwick, who cried aloud, "What scourge for perjury can this dark monarchy afford false Clarence?" And so he vanished. Then came wandering by a shadow like an angel, with bright hair dabbled in blood, and he shrieked out aloud, "Clarence is come, false, fleeting, perjured Clarence, that stabbed me in the field by Tewkesbury. Seize on him, Furies, take him to your torments." With that methought a legion of foul fiends environed me about, and howled in mine ears, such hideous cries that with the very noise I trembling waked, and for a season after could not believe but that I was in hell. Such terrible impression made the dream.
Great, beautiful.
That was a good vocal warm-up.
Great, what a speech. Let's go through it sort of line by line, thought by thought,
Okay.
and just unpack and paraphrase exactly what's going on, just so we can make sure that with this, within this poetry, we've got exactly what's going on. So story-wise, we're at Act 1, Scene 4, and we, the audience, already know that you're in the tower.
Yes, when I talk about having broken from the tower in my dream,
Yeah.
escaping from the Tower of London, right?
Yes, yes, yeah. So that bit's clear. When we get to it, you probably could pop out the broken, maybe a bit more.
Broken from the tower.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then also with the story, so the audience also knows that you're in that you're in the tower, because we have heard at the beginning of the show, we have heard Richard, your brother, say that he has planted these rumours, these prophecies.
Yeah. G of Edward's heirs, the murderer shall be.
Indeed, yeah. And he's done this, of course, all of this plotting and this scheming, he's done because the idea of being at peacetime is not of any interest to him.
Yeah. No, I was just reminded of the fact that you see that Looking for Richard film
With
Al Pacino?
Yes, yes,
They
yes.
change it to C of Edward's heirs to make it clearer that it's meant to be
Clarence.
Clarence. But that gets rid of the nice double, like the unintended double meaning that G could also stand for Gloucester, who is genuinely the bad guy.
Yes.
So I'm diving deeply into the wrong speech.
No,
right?
no. But that's interesting because it is that. Well, that takes me to a point that while we're doing a speech, which is all in this space of fantasy and a dream and a nightmare, there are a few things pinned on what we have as historical records.
Yeah.
So there was some prophecy. I think it's mentioned in Holland's Shed or Holland's Head.
Yeah.
But Shakespeare goes further and takes us into the space of what that might mean in an emotional landscape or in a psychological landscape. And this is we're totally in this space.
Yeah, I mean, it doesn't really further the action of the play. There's nothing it's doing plot-wise. It's all just kind of
But it's a jolly good monologue,
world
Duncan.
building and
Yes, yeah. World building indeed. Great. So audience know where you're at, just in terms of what's happened beforehand. But we are at the beginning of the show. And one thing that's important, I like that Shakespeare dwells in this first part of Richard's plot for so long, because it's the first part.
Yeah, and all of the fun is in that main character wanting something and getting, like, edging closer and closer towards it.
Yes.
Once he's got it and there's nothing to want, like his character kind of doesn't know what to do.
Yeah.
But it's also like the stakes aren't quite the same. The only thing you can do is bring in outside threats from that point, which is what happens in the play.
Yes, yeah, exactly. Yeah. Great. Well, inside threats we have here with this with a nightmare.
Totally.
So let's go through it and we'll just stop and start and unpack and paraphrase exactly what's going on. Great. First little bit.
Oh, I have passed a miserable night, so full of ugly sights of ghastly dreams.
Great,
It's pretty
beautiful.
self-explanatory.
It is, and we've got a nice full stop there, so I think it's clear that those two lines are one thought. And typical Shakespeare, right? I'm going to give you the headline first of all. Hey guys, I had a really bad night.
Yeah. A miserable night.
Yeah, indeed.
Sorry, my Australian accent's just not worth attempting. Full of ugly sights, ghastly dreams.
Yes, yeah. And then we go further into it. Next section.
And to hit the broken a little bit, methought that I had broken from the tower. That's good.
That's
Because you'd be
nice.
tempted to say, methought that I had broken from the tower. But if he's in the tower, why would he emphasize
Yes.
that? It would be broken out. Methought that I had broken from the tower.
Yeah, I think the broken is worth stressing. Not least of all because we already know about that. We've heard in different ways that you're in the tower.
Yeah. It doesn't need to be telegraphed to the audience.
Yes. Yeah.
And was embarked across to Burgundy. Across to Burgundy. I kept saying, for some reason I want to say across to Burgundy, of course, because escaping to France.
Yes. Oh yeah. And you got out of the tower, and that you were sailing across.
Yeah.
The embarked implying that you're definitely on a ship.
Yeah, it's nice too. He talks about a miserable night, ugly sights, ghastly dreams, and then the first specific thing he mentions is not ugly or ghastly at all. It's this nice thing of I thought for a minute that I'd actually escaped and was free. And was embarked across to Burgundy.
Yes, great. And then we go. You go deeper into this part of the story.
Yeah, so embarked across, so if it's medieval England and you're crossing from England to Burgundy, you're on a boat.
Yeah.
And in my company, my brother Gloucester, main character of the play, who becomes Richard III.
That's it.
Who from my cabin because they're on a boat,
Yep.
tempted me to walk upon the hatches.
Now I have hatches is the deck.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So his brother tells him, "Come outside and let's take a constitutional around the deck."
Yes. Yep. Definitely.
Then
And then it's just interesting. We've got that great Shakespearean habit of with the directions of thought. So you've got the headline, and then you say then you start going into the first part of the dream, and you go deeper and deeper into that first part.
Yeah.
So you thought you'd broken and you were embarked, and then you go more into the embarking. What was happening on the ship? Who was on the ship with you? And then only now do we get to the next part, or the second part of it.
Yeah, that's right. It's the term deep dive is a good one, because it is that thing of kind of that sinking thing.
Yeah.
Or when you're trying to remember a dream and it's really difficult, and then like something very specific, that's right, it was this thing.
Yes.
Which leads you on to this, and then this, and then this.
Yes. Yeah.
Yeah.
That being able to, it's useful to plot out what are the directions of the thoughts in this moment, because as we'll see, we're in the space of going deeper in, and then sometimes you move on to the next thought, but then other times, so if we think of the main points of what you're saying as being the highway, then sometimes you have a little byway thought.
Yeah.
Yeah, and
especially if it's a dream.
Indeed, yeah. Anyway, there's plenty. I'm getting ahead of myself.
That's
Let's
all right.
go. Okay, here we go. Brother has tempted
me
you
to walk upon the hatches.
Yeah.
Thence we looked toward England, so we're turning away from the direction we're going and looking at where we've come from. So a natural kind of reflective state.
Yes.
All of the things that happen to us, and if we're escaping from there, it would be all of the bad stuff that's happened.
Yes.
Yeah, hence cited up 1,000 fearful times during the wars of York and Lancaster that had befallen us.
Yes, that's it. Which is a reference to the Wars of the Roses. Yeah, the 30-year-long
English
war.
Civil War.
Yes. Yeah.
Yeah, red rose, white rose.
Yes.
These guys are on the York side.
Yes. Yep.
And
then we so that's another like dipping down, right? And then we get back to it as
we paced along upon the giddy footing of the hatches.
We've got hatches again, so
Yeah.
the deck.
And it's giddy because, I don't know, maybe the boat's rocking,
Yes.
or it's wet or something. We thought that Richard stumbled, and in falling struck me that thought to stay him overboard into
Great.
the tumbling billows of the main.
Yeah, good. Now this is a difficult one to unpack. So it was, your footing was unstable in some way.
Yeah.
And so it looked to you as if Richard stumbled.
Yeah.
But as he fell,
He hit me as I was trying to prevent him from falling.
Yes.
And what the kind of the kinetic energy of that or whatever
Yes.
led to me falling out of the boat and into the sea.
Yes, yeah. So then it's clear then the overboard is extremely important in this section that we need to know. Overboard, yeah. And convenient that it's at the very end of the line. More often than not, well, always. What's at the end of the line?
It's
That
important
moment
for one reason or
before,
another.
indeed, the moment before Shakespeare decided to hit enter bar is always will carry the most meaning. When in doubt, hit those final words or pull them out as much as possible. Great, and then we have then we go. Now,
We go into a weird, dreamy, hippie, psychedelic state.
Yeah, indeed. Now you go.
Now it's 1,000 ghastly dreams and ugly sights.
Yeah, now you're into it. It's like you needed to do this massive precursor.
Yeah.
But now we get into the dream, and your response comes out so clearly with this line.
Oh Lord, methought what pain it was to drown.
Wicked line, and you go even further into the description of it. What was it? It was
What dreadful noise of waters in mine ears.
and another third one.
What ugly sights of death within mine eyes.
Great. And now...
sound, then sight.
Yeah.
Nice little poetic device of choosing the sense to focus on.
Yes.
And splitting them. Then we go back to sight, and methought I saw 1,000 fearful wrecks.
Yes, great. As
so
in
shipwrecks underwater.
Yeah.
10,000 men that fishes gnawed upon.
Yes, what amazing.
So piranha-infested waters.
Yes, yeah.
And then it's weird because he's been talking about like spooky things. We're in Yo Ho Ho, Bottle of Rum, Pirates of the Caribbean territory with like all these corpses underwater being eaten by fish.
Yes.
And then there's this really good thing again.
Yeah.
Wedges of gold.
And.
Great anchors.
And.
Heaps of pearls.
And.
Inestimable stones.
And.
Unvalued jewels.
And where were they?
All scattered in the bottom of the sea.
Great. And then this here we've got this device again. That massive list, you now keep talking about them. This is so Shakespeare. I love you. I'm going to talk about I for about 5 lines. I'm going to talk about love for about 10 lines. And then I'll talk about you for 20 lines.
Yeah.
So now you tell us where all of these jewels were. You go even further into it with this bit.
Yeah, some lay in dead men's skulls.
Yes.
And in those holes where eyes did once inhabit, there were crept, as 'twere in scorn of eyes, reflecting gems.
Yeah.
Which wooed the slimy bottom of the deep and mocked the dead bones that lay scattered by.
Great. This is dense. This is a dense little part, isn't it? So it's almost like if you, the language can do, when I talk about this direction of thought, you can almost think of it like a camera. This is zoom in onto one of the skulls and then the gems that are there.
Yeah, I think that is probably, at least for me, that's the most salient image in this entire speech, is that skull with these weird gems for eyes.
And then I love it how you say they wooed the slimy bottom of the deep.
Like it's kind of tempting somebody like a siren underwater or something, I don't know.
Yeah. But it makes me think of things like the indie.
Okay.
Aren't they skulls and
The Kingdom of the Crystal Skull, the worst of the Indiana Jones films.
No, I thought it was a good one.
No, that's not a good one.
I mean, that's not underwater, but there's that idea that there's something this mishmash of jewels and death, of good and bad.
The most valuable thing,
right
there amongst the most dangerous things.
Yes, yeah.
That is a very Indiana Jones thing.
There you go, thank you.
I think this must have stuck in Shakespeare's brain too. I mean, look at the next line. If it's the start of the next bit, then began the tempest to my soul. What's a Shakespeare play that has the name, one of the words in that line?
Gee, I don't know, maybe The Tempest?
Yeah, and you remember that bit that Ariel sings in The Tempest? Full fathom 5 thy father lies, of his bones a coral made. Those are pearls that were his eyes. Nothing of him that doth change, but doth suffer a sea change into something rich and strange. It's exactly the same transformation happening underwater, and he even uses the precious thing where eyes once were in a skull image.
Yes.
So it's clearly important to him for whatever reason.
Yes, amazing. Gosh, sessions with Duncan Driver, that's what comes out. Different Shakespeares all over the place.
Yeah.
Great, beautiful. So, and it's quite nice that you get that dense with this wooing and then mocking, and so it's then, and then you say, and then began the tempest of my soul.
And then began, sorry, we'll find where the line is. Then began the tempest to my soul.
Yes, yep.
I passed methought the melancholy flood, with that grim ferryman which poets write of, unto the kingdom of perpetual night.
Yes, another super dense section where really this is the river Styx. Yeah.
He's decided to go. Holland said, you mentioned one of the great Shakespearean sources. Another one is like Seneca or any of the great ancient Greek or Roman writers.
Yes.
And so he's riffing on a lot of that ancient poetry, the gods, the underworld, the myths and legends of that particular ancient world. Yes,
yeah, and as it's a nightmare about your, you haven't actually said that you have said what pain it was to drown, but in this dream, we don't have a sense yet that you have died or that things have stopped.
Because he's just kind of underwater and wow, look at all of this stuff.
Yes, exactly. So and I guess that's the space of which, yes, in Greek and Roman mythology, that space where you haven't yet died. And so then...
an interstitial space.
Yes, nice. And for them, it was this crossing of the river Styx, where the souls of the dead were ferried over to the underworld. But this is difficult because you don't say that. I think the meaning is only in that grim ferryman. So I think that has to pop.
With that grim ferryman.
Yeah, you have to.
Poets, right?
Yes, yeah, you'll have to really paint that image with. It'll have to be that sense of that guy. You know that guy.
I can never know whether it's meant to be Karen or Sharon. It's a man with a woman's name, the ferryman across the river Styx.
Well, thankfully Clarence doesn't
tell us.
Although it'd be pretty funny
it's a
if you,
Shaz or a Kaz.
Is it Shaz or Kaz? We could add that into the comic version, the comic version of Richard III.
With that grim Shazza, which poets write.
That reads well. Let's change it to that. No. Great. I mean, the image is helped when you say, I guess, the kingdom of perpetual night.
What a great line.
Yeah.
Kingdom of Indiana Jones and the kingdom of perpetual night.
I told you. See, Indiana Jones was a good idea. In fact, let's just have that. No. Okay, great. So now you take us. There's a big shift now for this last chunk of the monologue.
Yeah.
You've mentioned there's been an absence of people, but a lot of jewels. So we have this ferryman, and now you start telling. Now we hear about two other people that you meet or that you come across.
It's I don't know if Shakespeare read Dante, but this is basically it's like you're reading Dante's Inferno.
Yeah.
And these famous people and like distant relatives and things popping up like blue flames kind of in the shape of people in order to call you out for all of the horrible things that you did or they did or both at the same time. Yeah,
Definitely. Yeah, great. So so the first, go do that line for me. The first
that there did greet my stranger soul was my great father-in-law, renowned Warwick.
Right.
So that's a reference to someone from the War of the Roses.
Indeed, and he was a bit of a side switcher, and as were you. As were you, right? So I think it's important that you bring him up.
Yeah.
He was such a player in the Wars of the Roses. He was willing to swap sides. He died.
So he's now dead.
Yes.
And he's on the other side of the river Styx.
Yes. Yeah.
And is there to greet me when I arrive.
Yeah.
In the kingdom of death.
And this is what he greets you with.
Who cried aloud, "What scourge for perjury can this dark monarchy afford false Clarence?" And so he vanished.
Yeah, great. And scourge is like what punishment?
Yeah, scourge. You know your Latin, flagellum.
Oh yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
Scourge for perjury, like the scourge of dark monarchy, scourge, perjury. So there's kind of legal things going on, but it's also a monarchy. And scourge, I think, traditionally is flagellum Dei, scourge of God.
Right.
So it's like the avenging angel of the underworld.
Yeah.
And he's saying, don't hope that you'll have any kind of dark angel champion on your side in this particular kingdom of night.
Yes.
Because, abandon hope, all ye who want to hear.
Yes. Yeah. And it's inferring what you deserve, what you fear you deserve, because of what you've done, because of that side swapping. Yeah,
that's right.
Yeah.
Perjury is the real thing that is being thrown at Clarence there. The idea that you're false, not telling the truth, switching sides.
Yes.
To be perjured.
Yes. Yeah. So he disappears, but then someone else comes to say hello to you.
Then came wandering by a shadow like an angel. Another seemingly a good thing again. A shadow like an angel with bright hair.
Yeah, but then it
dabbled in blood. And he shrieked out aloud, "Clarence is come, false, fleeting, perjured Clarence, that stabbed me in the field by Tewkesbury. Seize on him, Furies, take him to your torments."
Great, so we don't have a name for this person.
No.
But
Banshee, maybe?
A banshee?
Shrieking out aloud.
Well, you must have killed them in one of the battles.
Yeah.
Because they said that stabbed me in the field by Tewkesbury, being one of the battles within the Wars of the Roses. and then
gives an order
yes
to these furies of hell.
Yep. And again, you're called perjured Clarence.
Perjured,
Yep.
false, fleeting, perjured.
Fleeting is
That's a very Shakespearean thing to use three things that really kind of all mean the same thing.
Yes, yeah.
Seize up in furies, taken to your torments. And then, with that methoughts, a legion of foul fiends environed me about and howled in mine ears.
Great, and what did they do?
Such hideous cries that with the very noise...
What happened to you?
I trembling waked.
And
for a season after, could not believe but that I was in hell.
Great, because...
Such terrible impression made the dream.
Great, such a wonderful wrap-up of what you've just
Bringing
talked about.
Right back to the beginning of the speech.
Yes, yeah, indeed. Yeah, it's such a good monologue.
It is.
Great, beautiful. Can we just look at some verse within it?
My favourite thing.
My favourite thing too. So, many lines are regular.
Yep.
But then we've got quite a few feminine ending lines, and for those listening at home, so a regular line is a nice even iambic pentameter.
So full of ugly sights of ghastly dreams.
Great, that's it. Perfect, beautiful. But then if we played with, how's it go if we pop that broken out? Is it going to work? Or me thoughts that I had broken from the tower?
Tower, feminine ending.
Yeah, great, beautiful. So 1, 2 long. And when you bring in some information, like my brother Gloucester.
Gloucester, feminine ending.
Yeah,
England. 2 lines later.
Yes, yeah. And then when you give this information about that with the footing on the hatches.
Yeah, I like the way that it's not really. Maybe it's kind of a verse thing. It's more like a mouthfeel or texture thing. Sorry to introduce an odious word like mouthfeel. But it's a line that just wants you to say it so quickly. Upon the giddy footing of the hatches.
Yes.
Boom. And it just sounds like, somebody stumbling.
Yes, yeah, beautiful. Well, when you've got these nice little short but 2-syllable upon giddy footing.
Yeah.
Perhaps that's what it is that's helping it pop out. But then it's a long line when you're going into your methought that Richard stumbled and in falling. And then I think there's an inversion here. So struck me. That
struck me.
Yes.
Yeah.
As opposed to struck me. Because we need to know that you need to know what happened is when you were trying to help him, he struck me.
Yeah. So the emphasis isn't on me, it's on the struck. We thought that Richard stumbled and in falling struck me. The thought to stay him overboard.
Yeah, because we need to know that you went overboard.
Yeah.
That's where all the rest of it is going. It's drowning and then you being under the sea. It's a really nice little pattern or habit with a feminine ending line. So just to be super clear to those at home, that's when there's just one extra little syllable hanging out, so there's an 11th syllable. And it can happen when it's really long, when there are 12 syllables, and it's so much fun to play the length of the line because it's too long, and then it's even more fun if the following line has an inversion. So just do that and just milk it. So if the line is too long, that's Billy Shake telling you from so that you can take your time and then enjoy tidying everything back up with struck me. Yeah, have a go. So from methought to let's do methought all the way down to billows of the main.
Okay.
Enjoy the time that you can take and then tidy it all up with that inversion on struck me.
Methought that Richard stumbled and in falling struck me. The thought to stay him overboard into the tumbling billows of the main. Yeah,
great, amazing. Now the next line, you've got some, apart from methought, you've got some nice monosyllables there.
Yeah,
yes?
so
yeah.
You know better than me, but I tend to think that whenever you have these series of monosyllabic words, the tendency is to kind of...
Definitely.
It becomes less regular iambic pentameter, and it's like it slows down, but there's more intensity in it.
I think it's that exact combo of slowing down and slowing down for and to bring more intensity. So why don't you try, just do methought and then down to drown. So we've got, with the verse work is bringing out these rhythmical, these jazz-like choices where this monologue is actually, it's actually a score. There's a hidden score in there. So enjoy the length that you can have in the line that is too long. Enjoy that inversion. And it's on a word like struck me. And then we've got these monosyllables.
And in between them, if we're looking at this little bunch of lines, we've got this one line of perfectly scanned verse into the tumbling billows of the main, waves rolling on the sea, blah blah.
Beautiful. Okay, so from methought down to drown.
Yeah. Methought that Richard stumbled, and in falling struck me that thought to stay him overboard into the tumbling billows of the main. Oh Lord, methought what pain it was to drown. Cool. What pain it was to drown. Then so regular, alarmingly regular for your trip down the sea into the ocean. Yeah.
Alarmingly regular.
What dreadful noise of waters in mine ears.
Yes.
What ugly sights of death within mine eyes.
Yes.
Methought I saw 1,000 fearful wrecks. 10,000 men. I mean, you kind of want to say 10,000 rather than 10,000 men that fishes gnawed upon, but it's not a big one.
I would make that regular because the next line, if you do an inversion, wedges of gold.
Yeah, you're right.
Because indeed, this is also that time when as you were saying, that actually, you do. Clarence has these weird positive moments. There was all this gold down there.
Yeah. Okay,
An angel came to me. That good and bad. So I think that's a nice rhythmical choice that's in there to pull it out. Wedges of gold.
Methought I saw 1,000 fearful wrecks. 10,000 men that fishers gnawed upon. Wedges of gold, great anchors, heaps of pearl, inestimable stones, unvalued jewels, all scattered in the bottom of the sea.
Yeah.
Perfectly regular, just like into the tumbling billows of the main.
Yeah, mate. Yes, yeah. Gorgeous pattern to have be repeated. And then this is a wicked list, isn't it? Yeah. This and this and this and this and this and this and this.
And nobody could have any of them.
And then we go to that darker place, but all of this stays. I think it's really very regular.
Some lay in dead men's skulls, and in those holes where eyes did once inhabit, there were crepes, as twere in scorn of eyes reflecting gems, which wooed the slimy bottom of the deep, and mocked the dead bones that lay scattered by. I'd say, like, I don't know how many actors are watching this stream tonight, but it's tempting. I think if you're not used to playing a lot of Shakespeare, to want to do things like, some lay in dead men's skulls, and in those holes where eyes did once inhabit, there were crypts torn scorn of eyes, reflecting gems which wooed the slimy bottom of the deep and mocked the dead bones that lay scattered by. And you want to kind of ignore the fact that these are individual lines, because the sentences run from one another. You know, the technical term would be you want to play those enjambments. But I think it's actually more interesting, and it actually sounds more natural when you don't do that, when you actually honour the line endings.
I'm a huge advocate of honouring line.
This is why I'm setting you up to let everybody know that.
Nice setup. I follow the school of thought quite fiercely of honouring one's line endings. In fact, it was during a lockdown of sorts, I guess, during one of the plagues when Shakespeare wrote that one of his poems, the Rape of Lucrece, and he discusses in that what happens when we are so overcome by thoughts and or feeling. He actually writes out, it's when the wife so sadly and awfully has been raped, and her husband comes back and she can't tell him. And he writes in that poem how she stopped and started and what happens with the breath. And really, Shakespeare was already playing around with the use of midline endings, and putting this, the caesura in the middle. But then it's after that poem when so much more of these opportunities come out. What if you try that section and you try doing it running on, and then let's try doing it with the line endings being honoured.
Let's do it.
See what happens.
Some lay in dead men's skulls, and in those holes where eyes did once inhabit, there were crept as twere in scorn of eyes, reflecting gems which wooed the slimy bottom of the deep and mocked the dead bones that lay scattered by. So that's not terribly honouring of line endings.
And now do the opposite. Do it essentially as written.
Yeah.
So when there is a word at the end of the line, Billy shake, hit enter bar. So hold the word up before you run on to the next line.
Some lay in dead men's skulls, and in those holes where eyes did once inhabit, there were crept, as 'twere in scorn of eyes, reflecting gems, which wooed the slimy bottom of the deep, and mocked the dead bones that lay scattered by. I think that sounds so much better.
So do I.
and what it does for me as an actor is it reminds me of the fact that I'm trying to remember a dream. Like you were saying, it's sometimes your speech is halting when the emotion is so great that you don't just sort of get through a perfect sentence easily. But sometimes it's because the thought is, whatever it is really unclear, and you get like a few words into it and, oh, that's right, and then this thing, and that's kind of what's happening.
Yes, yes, yeah. It is like actually a score to follow, and I think ignore that at your peril. Let's just talk a little bit about the different. So just finishing on that, then really there's a lot of regular lines as we were saying, but it's once you introduce Warwick, once we have the this ghostly figure, once he cries that out at you, then we've got a feminine ending, and again the other feminine ending lines they come out when people are when that banshee one is screaming out at you.
Yeah, shoots.
And then there are then other times it just absolutely zips along. Can we just talk about before we get it up on its feet? Can we just talk about these sections? So let's just be really clear.
Yeah, sure.
There's a great verse nerd called Giles Block, and he talks about a monologue actually being 8 or 9 monologues, and he says that there's kind of always 8 or 9, pretty much like perfectly. When you're doing cuts and edits, you can always usually just quite neatly, like drop it down to 6 or 7 and take one of those chunks out. So can we just nominate, because those will be the different sections that you need to hit, and that's what we'll work that up on its feet. So
it starts, I had this awful dream.
Yeah.
That's really, that's just like a 2-line thing.
Yeah, that's it. Yeah, that's the opening headline act. And then we have...
And then we shift to, that's right, this is how the dream began. So I'd broken out of jail, I'd escaped, and I was going to France on boat, and my brother was with me, and he got me to walk all over the deck of this boat, but it was seesawing all over the place, and we looked at England, but it was just like awful memories of these wars, and then Richard fell and hit me, and I tried to grab him and save him, but that effort made me fall into the water.
Yeah, great.
That's one section.
Great. So that's section, I'll say that's section 2.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Into the tumbling billows of the main.
Yep.
Section 3, what pain it was to drown, dreadful noise, ugly sights, fearful wrecks, 10,000 men, wedges of gold, inestimable stones, dead men's skulls, crypts, just wooed the slimy bottom of the deep, mocked the dead bones that lay scattered by.
Yep, that's you
3.
Under the sea, but not in a fun, happy Disney kind of way.
No, it's a Salvador Dali dream sequence, not a Disney dream sequence.
And then the next section is really that it begins when then began the tempest to my soul.
Yeah, the Inferno section.
Yes, yep. And that's when we're
number
at
4.
Yep.
And that would go, then began the tempest to my soul, blah, 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 so sadly in the field by Tewkesbury, season and furies take me to your torments. Legion of foul fiends, hideous cry. What
about when you? Isn't section 4? I think it's quite short. Section 4 is really just the bits about the river Styx.
Okay,
and
Kingdom of Perpetual
that's it.
Night,
and I think it all changes then when you meet. You meet the first day to greet my stranger soul. Yeah, I think that's the next one.
Okay.
Is Warwick.
Renowned with Warwick, who cried aloud, "What scourge for perjury in this dark monarchy of false Clarence?" And so he vanished.
Yeah, and then I think the next section is this banshee one,
Right.
this unnamed person.
Then came wandering by a
Right.
shadow like an angel with bright hair, dabbled in blood, and shrieked out aloud, "Clarence is down, false, fleeting, perjured Clarence, and stabbed me in the field by Tewkesbury. Season of furies, take him to your torments."
Great banshee voice.
6.
That's 6. And then when the foul fiends all come around you,
Environ me about, and howled in mine ears such hideous cries that with the very noise, even though it's mid-sentence, I feel like I trembling waked
Yes,
is
the
actually
next
the start
one.
of the next section.
Yep,
So
I think
that's
so too.
7.
Yep.
Very noise. I trembling waked, and for a season after could not believe but that I was in hell. Such terrible impression made the dream. 8.
8.
Which takes us back to 1.
Yep.
You're right, 8.
Great. Beautiful.
Yeah. Stanley Kubrick said that he thought about a film as composed of 8 non-submersible units. I don't know quite how that term came about, but similar thing maybe.
You get non-submersible.
Non-submersible units. Like things
So it means
that had to be there, or
Oh,
I don't know. I don't know.
Oh,
I don't know
right.
quite what
Can't
he
be
meant by
hidden.
it.
Can't be
Yeah.
covered. Let's pop up and have a go doing this on its
Okay.
feet. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Let's do it on
I'm
its
nervous.
feet. Don't be nervous. And all I want you to do is, I think it would be nice if you are seated.
Okay.
Yeah, because it is your just as the first. Yeah, because there's the idea that you've just had the night and the sleep is not far away from you. It's
no,
just
no.
you know.
It's,
Yeah.
I feel like this is at a point in trying to sleep for those who, like me, are occasionally beset by insomnia, where you go, okay, well, I'm just giving up now. I'm going to give up. I'm reconciled to the fact that I won't sleep, and your mind is just sort of preying on that fact. Yeah.
Yeah, great. I think.
But you don't
yes.
actually get out of bed. You just lie there.
That's it. Yeah, that's it. That's it.
You're there awake.
Yeah, that's it. So we've got some space over
Okay.
here. And all I want you to do, Dunk, is I'm going to call out the different sections. Yep. So that we've got section 1,
Yep.
and just so make sure the gear changes are very sharp between the different sections. That's why we're doing poetry, that there's a depth there.
Okay.
Great. So just nice and easy. Give us the headline. Give us the first one.
All right. So because we're quite fresh to rehearsals.
Yes,
Give me a line if I drop it.
I will.
Thanks.
I will. I promise. I'll be here.
Okay.
I'll feed it through to you.
Thank
Great.
you. Simple when it's obvious that it's needed.
Great. Beautiful.
Okay.
Great. So just the first thing. You're just going to tell us what happened. What's just happened just then?
Oh, I have passed a miserable night. So full of ugly sights, of ghastly dreams.
Great. Big change. What was it? What was the first bit? First section of the dream?
We thought that I had broken from the tower and was embarked to cross to Burgundy. And in my company, my brother Gloucester, who from my cabin tempted me to walk upon the hatches. Thence we looked toward England and sighted up 1,000 fearful times during the wars of York and Lancaster that had befallen us. Lie?
As we paced along.
Thank you. I think my mind stopped there because it's kind of like, it is a bit of a shift, even though it's part of the same section.
Yes, it is, because actually you
stop being reflective.
You stop being
And
reflective.
start describing this
Yes.
massive action sequence.
Yes, yeah. You stop. It's like it's actually as if it was like past or the lead up, and now you're into the present of that moment of
Yeah.
the dream as we paced along.
Yeah. I'll just go back a little bit, if that's all right.
Yes, no, of course. Thence we looked.
Thank you. Thence we looked toward England.
Good.
And sighted up 1,000 fearful times during the wars of York and Lancaster that had befallen us. As we paced along, upon the giddy footing of the hatches, methought that Richard stumbled, and in falling struck me that thought to stay him overboard into the tumbling billows of the main.
Great, big change. You comment on that moment. You comment on it, and you say,
Oh Lord, I thought what pain it was to
drown. What
Dreadful noise.
dreadful noise of waters in mine ears. What ugly sights of death within mine eyes. Methought I saw 1,000 fearful wrecks, 10,000 men that fishes gnawed upon, wedges of gold, great anchors, heaps of pearls, inestimable stones, unvalued jewels, all scattered in the bottom of the sea. Some lay in dead men's skulls, and in those holes where eyes did once inhabit, there were crypts, as 'twere in scorn of eyes, reflecting gems, which wooed the slimy bottom of the deep, and mocked the dead bones that lay scattered by.
Great. Big shift in the dream.
Oh, then began a tempest to my soul. I passed, methought, that melancholy flood, and that green ferryman which poets write of, unto the kingdom of perpetual night.
Great big shift. You start seeing people. The first is
The first that did beat my strangest soul was my great father-in-law, renowned Warwick, who cried aloud, "What scourge for perjury can this dark monarchy afford false Clarence?" And so he vanished.
Great.
Then came wandering by a shadow, like an angel, with bright hair dabbled with blood, and he shrieked out aloud, "Clarence is come! False, fleeting, perjured Clarence, that stabbed me in the field by Tewkesbury! Seize on him, furies! Take him to your torments!"
great shift.
He certainly thought a legion of foul fiends environed me about, and howled in mine ears such hideous cries that with the very noise
Shift.
I trembled with it, and for a season after could not believe but that I was in hell. Such terrible impression made the dream.
Beautiful, Duncan. Yeah, gorgeous.
Can I get up?
You can.
Okay.
I think you're right that maybe it's 9, not 8, and maybe there is a shift.
There is
there.
a shift there.
Yeah.
As
yeah.
we paced along.
Yes. Yeah. So I think it's 9.
Yeah.
Yeah. Great.
That's a nice little illustration of something for our actors as well, isn't it?
It is indeed.
Like, just as you don't necessarily, or you shouldn't assume that you play an enjambment, don't assume that you should play a caesura either.
Yes.
A pause midline. Just because you see a full stop there, it doesn't mean that had befallen us. As we paced along,
Yes.
it's more dramatic. It'll like seize an audience's attention much more, and it follows the way thoughts occur to you if it's during the wars of York and Lancaster that had befallen us. As we paced along, that's right. This is the really important bit of the dream. This is what I wanted to tell you about.
Yes, yeah.
Yeah.
And that's how we talk. That's what
Exactly.
happened. Thoughts fall at us. They come and they tumble out.
Yeah.
Great. I think that is quite a deep character, deep dive.
I hope so. And appropriate for someone who's falling into the tumbling billows of the main and drowning.
Indeed. Brilliant work, Dee, and so clear. That makes it all really pop out. Such a fantastic monologue. And then, spoiler alert for those at home, you then die after this.
I do, but not by drowning. Oh, it's kind of by drowning. I get knocked out and then
do something with you in a wine barrel.
Okay, well, I won't reveal. not that it's really, you don't go to Shakespeare because you're desperate to know what happens next. Most people do.
Indeed. They usually say what's about to happen, and I guess that's it. Many dreams, everyone really is prophetic in Richard III. They often signal what's about to happen without even quite realizing it.
Yeah, and I think the Elizabethan / Jacobean theatrical and literary culture is very different to ours, where we hate the idea of spoilers and think it ruins your enjoyment of something.
That's true, yes.
People come to these plays knowing exactly what the plot is, because it's always a variation on something they've seen before.
Yes.
And the first thing that happens is you get told a little summary of the entire plot, and then you get characters like Richard will go, okay, here's what I'm about to do. Blah, blah, blah. He does it, then he goes, now did you see that thing that I said that I was going to do, and I did? Wasn't that really cool? So, yeah, the pleasure is actually all in being told what you're about to experience, and it's still being amazing anyway.
Yes, yeah, definitely. Brilliant. Well, we have dived down. Thank you, Duncan.
You.
And for those of you viewing, please send some questions through. Duncan and I will be online and we will answer those questions. We had so much that we wanted to get through for this character deep dive, and hopefully it's given you lots and lots of questions that you want to ask. So you can put the questions in the comments section under this stream, and we'll be online and we will answer away. Thank you so much for joining us into this little secret inside rehearsal process. This is what we do as the first touch on each character and on each scene and any bit of text. So my name is Lexi Sekuless. We've had the fantastic Duncan Driver playing Clarence. We are Rockspeare and Co. You are watching this stream thanks to Live New Lounge and Event AV Services, one of our partners for Richard III. In fact, Event AV Services have supported Rockspeare and Co. for everything that we have done since we started over 3 years ago. There are just two other partners that I need to give a big thank you to, Ramada Canberra and the Diplomat Hotel. They've also been with us for quite a few years now. And Pass Out Media and Franco's of Canberra are helping us make sure that this production actually happens. This is all a part of the Where You Are Festival. Make sure you think about joining us so you can watch this final performance. You can see Duncan do that monologue in situ in this phenomenal environment created here by Event AV Services. The stream is the 7th and the 8th of August.
I promise to be better when we're doing it in the actual performance.
I don't know about you, I thought that was pretty good. So thank you very much for tuning in, and as I say, join us 7th and 8th of August for the real thing. Thank you. Rockspeare Richard III is presented thanks to the Where You Are Festival, but also thank you to Ramada Canberra. They have been supporting Shakespeare by the Lakes for 3 years now, and we couldn't do this production without them. The Diplomat Hotel in Griffith and the Encore Apartments in Belconnen have a promo code TAKE20, which you can enter if you're booking any accommodation or any food and beverage, and it will take $20 off. That's the Diplomat Hotel in Canberra and the Encore Apartments in Belconnen.